Hey songwriters, I'm Deanna de Cabarrus from songwritinglessonsonline.com. In today's video, I'm going to give you a short explanation of what it means when we talk about the chords in a key and why that is useful for songwriters to know about how it works. So when you go to the kitchen and you make a sandwich, let's say you're going to have a sandwich that you regularly eat, you already have a sense of what that sandwich is going to taste like because you've eaten those same ingredients together many times before. If you made a Marmite sandwich and you bite into it and it tastes of jam, you're going to be very surprised. It's not like you don't like jam, you just weren't expecting it then. Starting to understand a little bit about chords gets you to the point where you can control the flavours in your song a little bit. So that's one of the great benefits for songwriters. Right, now onto the explanation. All the chords in a given key are related to one another, and I'm going to explain how, but it means that with one exception, you can try experimenting with all those chords next to each other and you're unlikely to get something that sounds really unexpected or really dissonant. So with the exception of one chord in the key that we'll talk about, you can pretty much freely combine any of the chords when you're experimenting, and it will give you a starting point where you're unlikely to choose a combination that sounds really dissonant or tense or unusable for your song. So that's one thing. It's a helpful place to start because it's kind of really hard to mess it up. You are unlikely to come up with something that sounds bad. So I'll give you an example. The chords in the key of C are C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. We're going to leave that B diminished out for the time being, but I can pretty much combine any of the other chords any way I want, and I'm not going to get something that sounds dissonant or unexpected or kind of really like a musical error. So I'm just going to start with C, and I'm going to play any chords from C major. Here's a C. So here I've combined some chords, they sound good. I think that sounds pretty good too. So I'll try one more. I won't start on a C this time, I'll start on a G. That sounds pretty good too. So you can, once you know what key you're in, if you don't know where to start with choosing chords from your song and you were to choose chords from within those 6, you're really likely to get something that sounds pretty usable quite quickly. How did I get those chords? Where did they come from? How would I know which chords are in a key? How would I know which chords might be in other keys? So if you start from 1, or if I start from and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, willing to bet you a fiver that in your head right now you're hearing 1. Your mind is auto completing that note. So if you're interested in music and you're a music lover and you've listened to music all your life, so much of Western music is based on that major scale that you already kind of know how that pattern goes, even if you've never learnt what those notes are called, simply from the amount of music you've listened to. So when we have those 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it starts again at 1, if those are the notes in our major scale, and all the chords that I just mentioned are going to only use those notes. You could imagine it as a set of Lego bricks. You've got 7 bricks, and you can only use those 7 bricks. There are no other bricks allowed. So all of those 7 chords we heard are going to be made using those 7 notes, and that's part of the reason they're related, because they're made using the same group of 7 notes. So let's imagine, and you're going to see this come up on the screen. I'm in the key of C. I've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. I'm going to start on C, and I'm going to make a chord starting on C, and that chord is going to go 1, 3, 5. So from those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm using notes 1, 3, and 5 together. So when I hear those together, 1, 1, 3, 5, so that is C major. When I play those at the same time, it gives me a C major chord. Now I'm going to move up to D. And just for the purposes of making my chord, I'm going to do the same thing, and I can imagine that D is now my 1. And I'm going to go 1, 3, 5. I'm going to take the D, I'm going to then take the 3rd note away from the D and the 5th note away from D. I'm going to stack them and play them at the same time. It's going to give me D minor. Right, so now I'm going to go to E, and I'm going to do the same thing. temporarily out of that group of 7 notes, E becomes my new 1. And I'm going to make a chord using notes 1, 3, and 5. 1, 3, 5. Gives me the notes E, G, and B. That's an E minor. I'm going to do the same thing on F. And I get the notes F, A, and C. Gives me F major. I'll do the same thing on G. That's going to give me G, B, D. That gives me G major. I'm going to move up to A, and I'm going to take the notes A, C, and E. That's going to give me A minor. And then I'm going to do the same thing starting on B, and that's going to give me B diminished. So diminished chords, I'm going to just put to the one side for now. They can sound great, but they're less commonly used in most kind of pop, rock, and folk. So we're going to just put them to one side for the time being. So basically, all I did was I took those 7 notes and I made a chord starting on each of those notes. But the notes in my chord were only notes from the scale. So you'll see that obviously various chords have some notes in common. The chord of C shares the G note with the chord G. It's got the G note in both of those. There's lots of other examples that you can see. So you may be thinking, okay, I follow that we've got these 7 notes and that we're building chords off each one of these notes, and to build those chords, we're using only those notes. But how did you work out that those were the notes in C major? And how would I figure out the notes in a different scale? The quick answer to how do you work out the notes in the scale is that there is a formula, and they're all spaced the same way according to one another. I'm not going to get into that formula just now. But you could think of the tune Happy Birthday. If I sing Happy Birthday to you, and I start there, you recognise that song as Happy Birthday. And if I sing, let's say I'm going to start here. Happy Birthday to you. A little bit low for me, but you can still recognise the tune. It's the spacing between the notes that helps us know it's Happy Birthday, not just the note that we start on. So same deal for the major scale. I can start on a G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and I'm going to get that major scale like that. Or I can start on D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So it's to do with how the notes are spaced. There is a formula to generate a major scale starting from any note. You just start on 1 and you move the correct number of musical spaces and the correct number of semitones and tones, and it will generate you a major scale every single time. So we're not going to worry about that right now, but there is a consistent approach to that. Okay, so back to our chords that we've got. Because the major scale is always going to sound the same, if we've spaced the notes correctly to get that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, rather than that wouldn't be a major scale. That series of notes would be something else. So provided we've got a major scale, we're always going to get a sequence of chords that is the same. We will always get a 1 major chord, a 2 minor chord, a 3 minor chord, a 4 major chord, a 5 major chord, and a 6 minor chord. Always, always, always. We can start on C flat. We can start on, any kind of ridiculous key you could think of, and we would still get that same series of chords in that order. It's always going to be that way. There's some movements between chords that we typically find quite satisfying. And there's some movements that we typically experience as having more energy or more movement, and some that we experience as having less energy and less movement. So if I go from a C to a G, 1 to a 5, that's quite a pronounced change. We really do feel like we've gone somewhere different, quite different. If I go from a C to an A minor, which would be a 1 to a 6 chord, there's a change, but it's more modest. I experience that as less of a pronounced change than C to G. So some of those chords are going to feel like they're quite close, like the degree of change or energy that you get from moving to one another is smaller, and some are going to feel like the degree of change and energy that you get from moving from one to the other is greater. This is interesting to us to start noticing as songwriters, because sometimes you might want a very smooth kind of effect that doesn't feel like there's loads of contrast in the chords. Maybe at that point the main driver in the song is the lyric, and we just want to keep the chords sounding pretty smooth. And so something like this might be as much contrast as we need. At other points in the song, we might want to feel that lift of that more of a sense of movement through the chord. And then we might want a change that's more obvious. So what you can do now to start getting to grips with this is start on the one chord in the key of C, that's going to be C, and go from C to D minor and see how you feel about that contrast. Like, what does that feel like to you? And then C to E minor, and then C to F, and then C to G. And then start putting them in sets of 3 or 4, and put different chords at the end. So put the 1 chord at the start and the 4 chord at the end. Put the 1 chord at the start and the 5 chord at the end. Put the 5 chord at the start and the 1 chord at the end. And start seeing how you like those different combinations. Something that you can use when you're writing your songs and your sections to create a little bit of contrast through the chords is to keep a certain chord back until your chorus. So maybe your verse section is we won't hear the 5 chord at all, or maybe we won't even hear the 1 chord at all. And then maybe when the chorus comes, we hear that 5 chord or we hear that 1 chord, and we'll get a real sense of lift in the music because we'll be hearing something different. So now you know what the chords are in a key and how we get those chords. They come from the major scale. And the creative value to this for you as a songwriter is that you can pretty much combine any of those 6 chords. You're going to like some more than others, but there won't be any that will sound really wrong or tense or dissonant. The flip side is, if you want to increase more of that feeling of tension or dissonance or surprise in the chords, you can start bringing in chords from outside of the key. So there's 2 easy ways to do that. Firstly, you can, let's say we're in the key of C, you can just take one of the minor chords and you can make it major. So let's say, like I'm doing this C major progression, and I'm going to suddenly play an A major instead of an A minor. We get a bit of a, ooh, that kind of felt slightly unexpected. Still cool, just a bit unexpected. And you can also make the 4 chord minor. So that's another way you can introduce something a bit unexpected. Quite common in country music. The Beatles also did that sometimes. You can, of course, bring in other chords from outside of the key. If it sounds good to you, it is good. So the other great benefit of understanding how this works is the numbers that we use to refer to the chords can be used to help you change the key of a song if you need to. Let's say that I have a song and it has the chords C, F, G, C. And if I refer to those by numbers, it would be 1, 4, 5, 1. Let's say this was too high for me or too high for my vocalist. Quite easily, now I just need to do a 1, 4, 5, 1 in a different key. We could try that in F. We could try that in G. In G, the chords 1, 4, 5. G would be the 1 chord, C would be the 4 chord, D would be the 5 chord. So it makes life a lot easier in terms of being able to change the key around and the melody will still work over the top, and you've got a lot of choice about singing things in a key that suits your voice or suits the singer's voice. Now you know all about how the chords in a key work. It might be time for you to go and get some songwriting inspiration. I have a free e-guide of 10 creative ways to get inspiration for songs that you might not have tried before. It's free, so grab it below and like and subscribe for more songwriting inputs. If you've got any burning songwriting questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you.